My dad was in Scouts when he was a kid, and it was just natural for me to go into scouting. Back when I grew up here in Modesto, it was almost every kid was involved in scouting, and we had a very vibrant community of support for scouting. My son Matthew got into Cub Scout when he was in grade school. Somewhere along the lines, I was signed up to go camping in the middle of the summer. We got into the fall. The den leader was moving out of the area, so all of the adults were sitting around a room saying who's going to be the new den leader, and or den mother, as the case may be. And they all looked at me and said, "Didn't you go camping with the boys a couple of months ago?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "Well," you're qualified, so you're it." We had 9 boys in our Cub Scout den, and of those 9, we bridged them all to Troop 488 in Vacaville. And of those 9 boys, 6 made Eagle, which is pretty impressive. Dave Fleming was our Scoutmaster. Dave had been a colonel in the Air Force, and he had been mayor of Vacaville. Dave was an amazing individual. But my role within 488 was back up to Dave and organizing a trip every month. Whether it was a hike or a camp out, we got out every month, quite active. And then with the help of Doug Cope, Doug was our leader handling the long hikes, the 50-milers, and Doug was very organized in seeing that we pretty much did a 50-miler every summer.
Yeah, Jeff went on almost every trip, and so we had great times at the Pinnacles and hiking up and around over the cables at the Pinnacles. We hiked the John Muir Trail, which is a really neat accomplishment, and you go over a lot of passes and a lot of ups and downs. Jeff was our fisherman, so if we had fresh fish, he got that, and he had also done that on a 50-miler we did at Mount Lassen. And he would go down and fish, and so that was the only fresh food we'd ever have, is the fish that Jeff caught.
We had Half Dome passes. Jeff didn't want to do it again. He said he used to do it all the time when he was a kid. He was a rock climber, I guess, in Yosemite. And my wife was afraid of the cables, so those 2 went down and then took the yard back up to get the car, while me and Margaret went up to Half Dome for our first time. And Jeff gave us great advice. When you're coming down, don't do it backwards and be like kind of scared about it. Just grab onto the cables and pull yourself against a rock and walk down. And that was the best, easiest way to go. And people were like, "Go past us, go past." And we're like, "No, don't worry about it. We're not in a hurry." So that was great advice he gave us. And then the other time when we were going to go to Bolsang, and we changed it up because there was a different hike. His stepdaughter and Matt hadn't done Half Dome. I said, "Well, I'll go again." So me and Matt went up, came back, good time. But things that we had learned was at Philmont on a trek, was you tie your rope between 2 trees, and then you put your food in a bag above it, and you tie it off so the bears, if they'd get one rope, whatever. Well, we picked a tree that the bear could just do this and reached over and grabbed the food, and it took our dinner for the next night. We were up several times in the night banging pans and throwing rocks in the bushes to get it away from us, and it didn't care. He was wanting the dehydrated meal that we had, that he ate the entire bag, 2 bags or something, and we figured that poor guy is going to be exploding later.
So basically, this was a spot we'd start bringing the Boy Scouts out here and camping. We had a number of canoes, and one of the other parents and I organized to buy more canoes off of a group up in Oakland that was updating their canoes. So we bought all of their older canoes and donated to the Boy Scout troops. And we'd come out here and we would camp. We'd come out on a Friday night. We'd stop in Lockford, and all of us would have a big pizza dinner. And then we would come out here afterwards and camp out. And then the next morning we would get up and go up river to the fish hatchery. This is the McCollamy River, and there's a McCollamy fish hatchery, which is below the dam there at Lake Comanche. And the kids would all tour the fish hatchery, and after we finished the fish hatchery tour, we'd get in our canoes and we would canoe down river picking up trash. There's a deal called the Great Sierra Cleanup, and we've been sponsoring that we're coming really close on 15 years that we've been sponsoring it. And when we first started, we would pull out, 10, 15 ton of trash, fill it up in the canoes, and a lot of it is flotsam, which is styrofoam and plastics and other things that were in the river. We would clean all those up, and we just upriver here, less than a half a mile, is the county park, and we would stop there and unload it all into their trash bins. It was all set up for that. So we did a really good job over the years to finally clean up this whole river area here. I remember later years we were doing this, we weren't finding a lot of trash anymore. So we sort of migrated to where we did pick up trash over on Lake Comanche after that.
Jeff is definitely synonymous with my scouting experience. I mean, not only on most of the trips we went on, but really played a big hand in organizing a lot of them and putting those together. In addition to the fun stuff, the work along the way to get to Eagle Scout, Jeff, I always feel like did a really good job of being there for guidance or, somebody's support, but he was not going to ever do anything for us. And so there was still that challenge of us, when I say us, me, Matt, Jason, our other friends, we had to get there ourselves. And so Jeff really was kind of the guiding light in that he was there for us and really kind of provided a lot of these great experiences, but also it was still about us kind of growing into those leadership positions. One of the canoe trips we went on, my dad came along and he brought our dog Buddy, and Buddy was a Jack Russell Terrier. He was super crazy. So he was running around all weekend in the bushes. He ended up with a bunch of ticks by the end of the weekend. But I know at one point everyone was like, where's Buddy? Anybody seen Buddy? And then it turned out he was in Jeff's tent, just hanging out on a sleeping bag. So kind of a fun memory. And I think maybe at one point he tried to steal his bag of beef jerky or something.
Lo and behold, we're looking around camp, we can't find Buddy, and everybody's calling for Buddy, and I go over and look in my tent. It was right here. And I look in my tent, and here's Buddy curled up on my sleeping bag after he'd been rolling around on top of this dead carcass of a coyote. He's picking up all those ticks, and he was in seventh heaven out here. He loved being out here. My oldest grandchild, Griffin, he's in Tiger Scouts right now, and he's having a blast. I haven't gone out and done any hiking with him on one of his monthly trips, but I plan to do that. Our standard fundraising was once a month collecting recyclables in a neighborhood of Vacaville, and that earned us enough money for all the kids to go to camp. One of the fathers who worked at one of the wineries, Charles Krug over in Napa Valley, he had a lot of used barrels that were no longer going to be used, and that we should basically, he'd donate them to us if we wanted to take them. So we organized a truck to bring 330 barrels at a time over to Vacaville from the winery. We cut them in half, and we started fundraising, selling them on the street corner there in Vacaville. It was the most amazing fundraiser you could possibly imagine. We'd clear $4,500 in a couple hours on a Saturday morning of just having these all piled on a street corner, and people would pull off the road and just come over and buy them straight from us for $15 a piece. It was absolutely incredible. That funded for 2 years our troop going to the whole contingent going down to Philmont, including air flights and uniforms and everything else that was needed for that.
One of my favorite experiences is going out to Philmont Scout Ranch. And one of the memorable experiences there is climbing up the Tooth of Time in this kind of rocky trail. And as we get to the top, we're watching a thunderstorm come in. And as it's coming in, we're hearing the thunder and the lightning, and they're getting closer and closer together as we realize that thing's going to come right at us. So we had to run down mountainside as we're hearing lightning hitting. And just minutes after we got down, it's hitting the top. We all had to, toughen up and go into our lightning stance for about 15 minutes, which if you don't know, it's quite uncomfortable as you're kind of in a crouch the whole time. Having that kind of hazard, recognizing the hazard and going about solving it best way you can. And everyone left safely on that trip, and it was a great time.
I think when we were younger, specifically riding in Mr. Reed's excursion to a bunch of camping trips, he would let us all take turns like playing different songs on his iPod, and the iPod was really new at the time, so we were all like really enamored with getting to pick our song. And as I've gotten older, I realized that like letting a bunch of like 12-year-olds pick songs for you in the car on the way up is actually like, I don't know if I would do that. So I just really liked how he was like letting us pick music, and it was super fun. So that's like one of my just general collection of memories. And the second one is actually when I was probably like 17 years old and I was on the way to Eagle. I kind of like lost sight of it for a little bit, and I was in high school and wasn't focused on it as much. And I thought I wasn't going to be able to do it or like have enough time. And then I went to Matt's house one day, and he was working on, we were working on something related to scouting, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember that moment. Mr. Reed actually told me that he thought I could do it and that I had enough time. And if I just like put my mind to it, I was going to be able to do it. And I did make Eagle before 18. And I'm really, really grateful for that particular moment, because I think if I would have let it go, I would have been really disappointed. So he inspired me at the very end to like really chase it, complete the project, get like the last couple of merit badges I needed, and like really kind of not give up, basically.
The skills that these kids learn in scouting are lifelong skills that pretty much for most of these kids will affect their careers and the rest of their lives.